we've got a lovely day to taste white wine. We're going to look at one grape variety from the New World and also from the Old World. And so I'm going to hopefully show them the different styles of winemaking and climate and the effect that it has on the same grape variety. And then by the end of the tasting, I'm hoping that they will be able to distinguish their Sauvignon Blanc from their Chardonnay. And once we've achieved that, and perhaps, if we're lucky, their New World from their Old World, then I think they'll be on a very good road to expanding their knowledge massively from there. For me, the best way to just try and explain a little bit about white wine and to give you a sort of a good basis knowledge is to try 3 different grape varieties, but one from the New World and one from what would be the Old World. So I've got, for the Old World, represented today from France. And the New World, as we like to refer to it, anything other than France, Spain, Italy and Germany really, we've got one from New Zealand and one from California. And then one funny one at the end, we're going to just try this terribly popular Pinot Grigio. It's not necessarily the wine merchant's favourite drink, so I've only brought one along, and we're going to try a Pinot Grigio from Australia, a New World style. It normally comes from Italy, so yeah. Anyway. But when we're tasting white wines, what we're really looking for here is balance. You want the balance of acidity and fruit. And as you may or may not know, white wines tend to be made of single grape varieties. And so today, the real tasting here is to taste Sauvignon Blanc and to taste then Chardonnay. And the Sauvignon Blanc gives the very crisp, fresh style of wine. When we go to the Chardonnay, I'm going to give you an Old World Chardonnay, which is Chablis, which is pure Chardonnay. And this hasn't been aged in oak, so it's got a lovely minerally flavour to it. And then I'm going to give you an American Chardonnay after that, which has been aged in oak and comes from lovely climate. It gets very hot in the day and very cool at night. And that has got a lovely creaminess and richness to it. So let's get on and see whether we can find some differences between the two. The first one up, we're going to taste a little Villa Maria Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough. And now for the Old World, we've got a Puy Fumé 2008 from a producer called Masson Blanc de Lait. And this is, again, all the same grape variety, Sauvignon Blanc.
How do I know that's a Sauvignon Blanc? Because that New Zealand one quite clearly states it on the label, but say if I was to go into a shop, I completely dismiss that one because it doesn't actually say Sauvignon on the front.
I agree entirely. This is the mystery element of wine. Back in 1983, which is the first point I can go to from when I started in the wine trade, when we were working, there were no wines really from anywhere other than the Old World. We sold predominantly French and, believe it or not, Bulgarian wine then. And it was really with the arrival of the New World wines that the grape variety became the prominent name. Before that, you were supposed to be able to know which area produced which grape variety. And so when you're dealing in France and the Old World, where you haven't got the grape variety on there, you then need to know your Puy Fumés from, in fact, your Puy Fuissés. So let's taste these and have a look. So on your right, James, you've got your Villa Maria Sauvignon Blanc from their private bin. They have various levels of wine they produce from the Marlborough region in New Zealand, very famous for Sauvignon Blanc. And here the climate is lovely because it gets very cool at night. In the day it warms up, and the stone soil, the calcareous soil, just keeps the vineyard warm in the evening and into the night, so the vines never get too cold. But cold climate or cool climate is where Sauvignon Blanc thrives. And so you find it not grown so often in places like Australia or in the great heat of Spain and such places. And in fact, even in California, it doesn't do quite as well. And so the first one, again, we want to look at the colour, and when you tilt that, having given it a swirl, there's a lovely, that's a sort of a lime greeny colour, isn't it? And it's fresh and bright. One of the nice things about tasting still wines are when a red wine is maturing and getting older, it gets paler in colour. And when a white wine is getting older and maturer, it gets darker in colour. And when you're drinking Sauvignon Blanc, as you probably know, you want it to be fresh. It's sort of almost in the word, isn't it? Sauvignon Blanc. You want it to be crisp and clean. And so fresher and brighter, the better. And that, when you stir it, I can look through it and I've got a lovely, it's a sort of a lime tint to it as it swirls around in the glass. And then on the nose,
love it.
You've got that little bit of grassy, almost It's freshly cut grass in it, and lime. In fact, the lime is quite rich. Again, I'm putting words in your mouth now, or in your mind, sorry. But then there's a richness in there, isn't there?
Well, actually, for sort of what is essentially a very light wine, whatever, it's actually got a hell of a strong bouquet. I mean, it's right there in your nose.
Yeah, it is very dense. Yeah.
And then as it swirls around, mine's now starting to open up a little bit more. And so now they're getting to the right sort of temperature. Let's have a little sip. First thoughts?
Well, you've got that wonderful sort of tang on the front of your tongue that's almost like zesty and fresh. And then it's sort of, as it goes backwards down the side of your mouth, you get a bit more fruit coming in.
Yeah.
Is that
That's
right?
it, and it sets off. The acidity just seems to set off for me in the sides of my mouth, sort of in my cheeks. And that's that lovely zesty Sauvignon Blanc. Lots of crispness, but this has got this wonderful sweet fruit to the centre of it. And a word that gets used in amongst wine merchants and winemakers is the New World style is very fruit driven. And what they're trying to say is that, that the most important element is capturing that fruit and sort of locking it, and then building the rest of the flavours around it. So you can get your acidity, you can get a little bit of sourness, which is, you know, sour cherry style flavours, which is quite nice because it cleans the palate. Now let's go and try it again next to its French counterpart. So again, the vintage here, 2008. So Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, they're only 6 months apart in age. And let's give this a little sniff. And this is just a bit richer on the nose.
It's a lot more subtle, this, isn't it? It's not. It's a bit sweeter.
Do you get little hints of asparagus?
There's something weird going on there. Yeah, yes, I can smell. That's really potent. That is
But it's a
really
lot more,
potent.
Yeah, it's a lot more complex. This, and it's sort of.
And it's slightly darker in colour.
Yeah, it really is.
Put it to the taste test, because on the nose it is richer.
I'm afraid to taste it after that smell.
Now here, I hope the difference now is that the Villa Maria is that fruit-driven element. You get the fruit takes you all the way through, whereas with the Puy Fumé, you've now got a much broader.
It's a lot more. I mean, the Villa Maria, by comparison, is quite sort of one-dimensional. It's fruit. It's big fruit, especially on the bouquet. Whereas this is a lot more complex. There's a lot more sort of going on. There are lots more different flavours that sort of come through.
Got a big width of flavours, haven't you, as well? Because in the mouth, you taste it right the way across the mouth. Once you breathe the air across, then it comes back. It's got a long finish and quite a dry finish.
Very dry.
And it has got that sort of
Not as sweet at all.
that cut grass finish.
Yeah.
Now, let me take you on to these Chardonnays. The first one is our New World and is one of my favourites, Sonoma Cutrer. And then the Old World, we're going to drink some Chablis. So the first one on the right is our Sonoma Cutrer from Sonoma Valley. And if we have a look at the colour on that, that's got a lovely rich gold yellow. And it really has got quite a gold hue to it, isn't it?
It's almost honey. It's getting towards honey, isn't it?
It is just that. I mean, it is a lovely, healthy. It's got a nice glint to it, hasn't it? It's sort of a gold jewellery. Anyway, 2006 vintage, so it's got a little bit of bottle age on it now. 4 years of maturity in there, and now a little sniff on the nose.
Oh, very different.
Very different.
Really?
You've got buttery, oaky, rich. This wine's
Really
been matured in lovely American and French oak, so you've got these vanilla overtones coming out ahead of it. Now, when a wine is put in oak, what you don't want is too much oak. And I hear a phrase frequently, and I'm sure you know it, where friends will say to you, anything but a Chardonnay, please. And they go, I'm a member of the ABC Club, anything but Chardonnay. And what most of them are saying is, don't give me a big oaky Chardonnay that actually tastes like I'm swilling oak chips around in my mouth. So this wine is aged in oak casks, lovely big oak barrels, just to give it enough what they call toast. So there we go. So a good swirl around, a little sniff over the top. And this is so different. This is lovely, rich melon, And there is a little bit of guava fruit in there.
It's a bit perfumey.
It is quite perfumey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got a bit of grapefruit that hits you. But here you've got Chardonnay working with oak, and quite nicely balanced. For New World wines, this is very Burgundian-like. It's very French-like, because what they're trying to find is at the front a stewed fruit, which is like you're cooking down fruit in the kitchen. You know that you get that lovely perfume where you've got the acidity coming off as it boils down, and you're getting the sugar is left behind and the acidity coming away. And then after that, the oak starts to sort of move in, and you try to look for bits of cheesy style qualities in the wine. And that's where the oak and the fruit have moved together. And the combination is this unusual pong that just initially is cheese. And you think, oof. But then, like really good cheese, that oof turns into because of course it's just decay, isn't it? It's things rotting down, but in a rather elegant fashion. And then the Chardonnay takes over again and comes back. But this really does want food, doesn't it? I don't know that you'd want to sit down and drink this in the evening.
Too heavy. You need
with
that
friends.
balance out with the food, definitely.
Now, moving along to the one on the left. So again, the same grape variety, Chardonnay, which is the main consistent of Champagne. And in fact, when you see a wine described as a Blanc de Blanc, in particular in the case of Champagne, where the word Blanc de Blanc appears on the label, it means it's only got Chardonnay in there. It's the only white grape, white of whites, the only white grape in there. So you get a rich, smooth style of Champagne or sparkling wine. And so Chardonnay, without the oak, rich and smooth. With the oak, it takes on a new intensity. It's got another level to its smoothness. So here, Chablis, we're now going for something that has got no oak. So the colour is just a little bit lighter. 2007 is this vintage, and if you hold them together, you go have a look at these.
They look really similar.
The one on the left is slightly limey in colour, to the one on the right, which is which has got a honeyed colour to it. What we're seeing here is the influence of oak on one, on the New World on the right, and no oak on the left. And that's Chardonnay should normally be a green tinge when it hasn't got oak on it. So then if we have a little taste of it, swirl it round.
Give it a twirl.
So no oak, let's see.
So then on the nose, same grape variety, and just see the difference. When you take oak away from it,
Oh.
leaner and greener, yeah?
Oh, it's so, yeah, it's a bit pongy,
And you get-
organic.
Yep.
You almost feel as if the character's actually been spoilt by having the oak, because it's sort of slapped on and takes away what's in there.
Now there's an interesting bit, because a lot of people would say, Chardonnay that hasn't had oak is half the wine. Yet people who love Chablis, and there is a big crowd of people who just think it's sensational, just love the fact that you've got Chardonnay unattacked by oak.
Which do you
I would
prefer?
much rather have a huge attack of oak. I can't believe the difference. That's just like two completely different wines to me, even though it's exactly the same Chardonnay. I can't believe that oak would make that much difference. That first one, Chardonnay, is so much more beautiful to smell. This one, I mean, that quite frankly smells toilet-esque to me. I'm sorry. I don't like that.
It's a little bit vegetal, isn't it?
Don't like it.
Like it?
I'm
No?
afraid to taste it.
Go on, try it. Have you had a taste? Have a
No,
little
I'm
taste,
scared.
because I think when you taste it, it'll change completely. The whole experience will be, I hope,
That's
Life-
really
life-altering.
putrid.
life-altering. I don't think so. Maybe.
Oh, well that smells, quite frankly, hideous, but tastes nicer. So I say that if I ever order this, I just don't smell it, just go straight for the taste.
So, should we go and now try this Pinot Grigio? I'm going to give you a bit of yellowtail Pinot Grigio from Australia. Now, Pinot Grigio, as you probably know, is the grape variety. So that's the grape. And the grape variety really is very famous from northern Italy. And that's where the whole great surge of Pinot Grigio took off. But it can be grown all over the world, creating this sort of fruit salad-y style bouquet with a nice dry finish at the back. It gives you elements of variety of different grape styles, all in one glass. I actually have to say that although this is a very available wine, it's not expensive. It was one of the best I've tasted in a while. and just have a go. I mean, it really isn't expensive, but it has its slight fruit salady nose. And then very light on the finish and very clean. And I think its popularity is that lightness.
It's very uncomplicated. I mean, it's sort of like picnic friendly, I guess.
It is. It reminds me of like a Prosecco. It's like the non-sparkling Prosecco.
Okay, we'll perhaps start with you this time, James. Your thoughts and maybe a favourite out of these.
I think it's got to be the Chablis.
The Chablis on the left. Well, we know it's not going to be Zoe's.
Not for smell anyway, but I have to say the taste was better.
Zoe, come on, which was yours?
Oh, you see, I have to stick with what I already loved beforehand, which was I love my Marlborough Sauvignons, so I'm going to stick with the Villa Maria, but also I loved the Pinot.
I did too, actually. I think for what it done, it was just wonderful.
And bang for bucks, because I can tell you it's half the price of the others.
Yeah.
But anyway, well done.
Thank you.
And chin chin.
I'm lifting both of mine, hedging my bets.
More.
Well, with the white wine, it sort of reinforced what I'd actually already thought, because I just found some of those New World whites, the Sauvignons and the Chardonnays, just too obvious. And it sort of reinforced my prejudices that actually, on the white wine, I love those French classics like the Chablis. Yes, please.
It's just strange because if I was going only by the smells, there's a lot of them that I would choose not to taste, but only because I'm here and I'm tasting them. So I suppose it's made me think, well, if I didn't like the smell of something, that it doesn't necessarily mean I won't like the taste, which is good. So it's opened my mind to just going ahead and tasting it anyway.